What's up, everybody? Khaled Iwamura here from insaga.com, and I'm here with Jean Charest, the candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election happening in September. Well, that's kind of a long ways away, but it is still happening in September. Jean, I gotta ask you, Guy Lafleur passed away. Your thoughts on that?
I saw Guy Lafleur play when he played junior hockey for the Remparts de Québec, the iconic junior hockey team in Quebec City, and I saw him play for the Canadians. I got to know him after that over the years, and attended events with him, and think the world of a man who was an exceptional athlete and an iconic hockey player, but also a very generous man, rather reserved and a bit shy, and not someone who would try to impose his presence anywhere he went, but still he was extremely generous and someone who we looked up to for his example as an athlete and as a person. So I'm very sad to hear of his passing.
So am I. You are pretty much in Patrick Brown country right now. So I got to ask you about Patrick Brown. I know you have had a relationship for several years. And there's a report that says you've made kind of a pact with them saying that you won't kind of mudsling each other. Is this the report true that you guys have made a pact and you guys would kind of support each other at the end if that has to happen?
There is, to answer the question very directly, Khaled, there is no deal between Patrick Brown and myself. It's the members of the party who will choose. And we have until the 3rd of June to recruit new members who will then be eligible to vote during the summer with an outcome on the 10th of September. And we're encouraging all those who want to support my candidacy to go to jeancharest.ca and take a membership. Patrick came into politics when I was leader of the federal party, and we're friends, and I have a lot of respect for Patrick. And so we do, and we do get along, and but there is no particular deal. And but he's running a very respectful campaign. I think he's running a campaign based on the issues and the things that he believes in, and we're all running our campaigns in a different style, by the way. And so he and I are people who, on a number of issues, will agree, and where we disagree, we treat ourselves respectfully.
905 is, everybody knows it's the path to victory. If you become the next leader of the Conservatives, what do you have to do to get votes in Mississauga, Brampton, Halton, and the GTA?
Well, the Canadians who are in this part of the country as elsewhere are looking to the Conservative Party to be a national political party. They want us to get our act together. They want us to present a solid alternative to the Liberals, and they want us to be a national party. And they don't want us to go down the route of American-style politics. It's not what we want for our country. This, wedge politics and hot button and sloganism, and so they want us to be very Canadian. They want an adult in the room. But in this part of the world, there are a few key issues I think that they expect us to address. One of them is to have an open, positive view on immigration. And we suffered from the fact that in 2015, we made proposals that still are remembered in a negative light. And so the new leader needs to address that, talk to the future, and make sure that all communities in Canada understand that if you're a new Canadian, you're part of the family, and you're a Canadian, period, and that you're welcome in this country. And I will do that. My own view on immigration has always been very positive. We should attract talent from all over the world, integrate them. It's been the story of Canada and a great privilege for us. And there's issues like climate, for example, that we also have to address intelligently. If we don't get it right in this part of the world, people are not going to vote for us. And the last thing I'd add, Khaled, is that we need policies that speak to economic growth. That's what people want. The government of Canada now, Mr. Trudeau, is all about spending. We had to spend during COVID, but now the time has come for us to clean up our balance sheet and get our act together. And if we want to reduce inflation and have a world in which the price of a house isn't in the stratosphere, we need to clean that up. And for that, we need a Conservative government that's going to focus on policies that support economic growth and allow people to have more money in their pockets.
In many of the polls, obviously polls can mean nothing or everything. Pierre Poilievre is ahead of you. Why are you a better choice than Pierre Poilievre?
I'm the underdog in this race, no doubt about that. I'm fine with that. I've been an underdog all my life, and I feel very comfortable in that position. And remember, Khaled, and the way this vote is structured, because it's a preferential ballot, you choose your first and second and third choice. The front runner doesn't win because the vote dynamic goes in the other direction after the first ballot. So, excuse me. So in this case, we are going to distinguish ourselves from Mr. Poilievre with substance. I put forward a policy yesterday on healthcare. I think we need to reopen the Canada Health Act to allow the provinces to test and to experiment, innovate, allow more private participation in healthcare while maintaining the principle of a single payer, which means none of your listeners today is going to put their money, their hand in their pocket to pay. That'll be protected, but give the provinces more flexibility. We presented a policy on defense where we want to open, if I'm prime minister, I'm going to open 2 military bases in the Arctic, one with a deep water port, so that we can occupy our territory and be mindful of the fact that Russia is a neighbor on the border of Canada and Russia. We put forward a policy also on daycare to support families. And I would go even further than the agreements that have been signed with the provinces to actually take federal income taxes off parental leave compensation that you receive, to allow a 2-year period if people want that, to actually allow families or someone on parental leave to gain up to $20,000 without having a clawback on their revenue to transition back into the labor market. Those are smart economic policies that we should do. I mean, we're going to, on substance, I think, distinguish ourselves from the other campaigns, because we've already been out there with a substance-based campaign that says, here are the things in the areas in which I would bring the country if I'm prime minister.
You propose a new national healthcare plan for Canada. Can you discuss the key elements of this, please?
Well, the basic change, which is pretty important, is to change the Canada Health Act, the federal act, that establishes a number of principles and rules by which we transfer money to the provinces. One of the rules is that there should be a single payer. That's fine. That remains. There needs to be what we call portability. What that means, Khaled, is that if you are in Ontario and you go to Saskatchewan and something happens to you, that you'll receive care. But what we would change in the act is the ability of having the private sector play a stronger role in delivering services under a single payer system. I'll give you an example. Here in Ontario, the government could sign an agreement with a group of doctors who open a clinic for knee and hip operations. And you sign an agreement where you say, well, we'll send you 1,000 cases a year. We'll give you X amount of money per case. And then it'll be your job to manage your clinic. And you do diagnostic, you operate, you do post-operation, you do rehab. And then what you get is a system that's more efficient, more specialized. You reduce wait times, control costs, but also, Khaled, you move out of the hospital beds people who don't absolutely have to be there. And you make sure the hospital beds are now serving people who have more atypical type of ailments. So these are the kinds of things coming out of COVID that we need to deal with. Pretty urgent to do it. Our healthcare system's in bad shape. The people who work in our healthcare systems are real heroes who have allowed us to get through this. But we need to improve. We need to recognize qualifications of recent immigrants, for example, and their credentials, rather than pushing them back into training that is completely useless. We need to do that throughout the country. Those are the things that I would change if I became prime minister.
Another, if you became prime minister question, will you scrap the carbon tax?
I'm going to come out with a policy on climate next week. I want a comprehensive approach that will allow us to do, for example, carbon capture and storage. It would allow us to do hydrogen, green or blue, or small modular reactors. I believe in the nuclear option in terms of energy, which is absolutely essential to get to zero emissions by 2050. And yes, I would put a price on carbon, but we need to be smart about it. It cannot discriminate against rural Canadians. It cannot be a wealth transfer tax. It has to be simple and flexible and allow us to transition towards zero emissions. And if we get that right, the design of it is key. We get that right, we'll be in good shape. As I mentioned earlier, if we don't get that right, we're not going to get elected. On the issue of climate, a lot of Canadians care about this issue. They want to know that their federal parties have their act together and that they're going to do the right thing.
And John, one last question. I know the way to anybody's heart in the GTA is their food. I have to ask you, your favorite restaurants in Mississauga, Brampton. I'll even give you the GTA to make it easier for you.
Well, I was at a restaurant yesterday called Terramind, Indian Bistro.
Nice.
And the food, Khaled, was great, absolutely fantastic. And my wife Michelle and I love India. We've been there a few times. She's been there on Red Cross missions, and the food was great. I thought, this is the best that Canada could offer.
Awesome. And I'm going to put you on the spot. Mississauga. Do you know any restaurants in Mississauga?
Well, then I'd hesitate to name a restaurant in Mississauga, but I'll get around to it. Give me a little more time here.
Yeah, you got until September. So
okay.
All right.
I'll work on it. Thanks.
Jean Charest, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Khaled. Bye-bye.
Bye.